Well, good morning. I'm taking the time to drill and peg the section of the barn that I got up in the last video, which is not all that exciting, just drilling and hammering in pegs. These pegs here, these holes I've already drilled. These oak posts are really hard. Well, good morning. It's going to be another hot one today in the, I guess, up in the 90s and very, very humid. So I'm trying to get an early start. And what I just cut in half was an 8x8 12 footer that's hemlock. These are actually beams that came from our old property and that I logged and sawed. They were all intended to be used for the house, but they got lost in the back of the pile, and I ended up using other material instead of these, which I'm kind of grateful for, because hemlock's a lot stiffer than the pine, eastern white pine. And these 4x8s, let me take you over here. These 4x8s are going to sit on top of these 12-foot beams right down the middle here, and they're actually going to be on short posts so that they basically will split the difference, so the rafters will land on top of them, and it'll split the difference, so the rafters won't be spanning 12 feet, they're only spanning 6 feet. And the reason why I'm doing that is I would have liked to use 2x8 rafters, but I didn't have the material, so I saw 2x6 rafters, and they're going to be fine, because they're really technically only spanning 6 feet, or actually it's going to be under 6 feet. So that will, by putting in these 4x8 hemlocks, allows me to use a smaller rafter. And that's, so I'm using the material I have on hand, and instead of, you know, cutting more trees down and sawing 2x8s. So that's the reason, and I'll show you the step-by-step of the plan I have in my head. So hold on, I gotta saw up one more 8x8. All right, let's see here. All right, everybody sees the angle on the end of the beam. That's the same bevel, and that matches that angle. That's pretty close. Let me go to the other side and make it a little clearer here. So what I am sawing an angle. What I'm sawing is an angle on the top of these 4x8 hemlock pieces that I just resawed, and that's so that the rafters will, I don't have to do a crow's foot or any notching. This mimics the angle of the roof. It's a 4/12 pitch, and they'll just be able to lay right on here directly and be nailed off. And this is just going to make, instead of cutting every single rafter with a bird's mouth on one end and the angle at the top and something in the middle, this alleviates 1/3 of the cutting by doing this. So it's a little bit of fussing around, but once I've got the mill set up, I'm not adjusting any of the stops on here, and I'm setting the mill to 7 1/4 inches, which seems, so they'll all be the same height here, 7 1/4 inches. They should all be very close. So here we are, messing with the sawmill, doing something that was initially not intended for, but does a really good job at this. They'll all be hopefully all consistent, and so that's what I'm doing right now. I'm just going to zip this top right off. Let's go check it out. So here's the, look at that. Hopefully you can see that. That's as good as it gets. That's the correct angle. They're all 7¼ inches off the deck, so they should all be very consistent. So I have 3 more to do, and then we'll start getting ready to put these things up. All right, let's go up and you can see what I put up temporarily, just to check to see how things are fitting. So that's the piece I just sawed on the sawmill, and this is the rafter pattern. I have to put these blocks under it. These will all be screwed together and nailed, but as you can see, the rafter pattern, you can't see down there, but it fits really nice. It lands perfectly on this angle that we sawed, and the top is also perfect. So I'm thrilled by that. Looks really good. So as you can see, that 4x8 hemlock splits the span, and so it should make those 2x6 rafters, even though they're not the best quality, they should be fine. Actually, you could probably do it with 2x4s. The rafter pattern is not quite right at the other end, but it's close enough. The tails of the rafter, I'm actually going to, I cut them on this one, but I'm only going to do the horizontal cut, and then once they're all in place, I'll snap a line and do the ends of the tails so that they're all perfectly lined up. So I'm going to check the rafter pattern over there, and then just keep going, putting in these pieces of hemlock that we made. So that's what's happening. Stick around. All right, now this is a little bit better view of what is happening. You can see the rafters hit that mid beam, and that's what it's going to end up. That's the slope of the lower roof, and it's going to be the same, exact same thing on the other side. And what I absolutely love about this, the visual things about this post and beam, is you can see exactly how the weight of the roof gets transferred down the rafters. It gets spread on this 4x8, which gets supported by the 8x8, and it all gets transferred through these braces and down the posts. And I just think it's cool. I think you know, there's just so much to look at. And in here you can see that's what the ceiling of the tack room and stalls are going to be, at that sloped angle. And the other thing this 4x8 does, it gives me a nice place in the center of each stall and tack room to put a light, which doesn't seem like a big deal, but it's already done. It's centered. There's a nice flat place for me to mount a box, so that's just another added benefit. So all right, it's hot. I'm gonna go in and take a break, and then gonna spend the rest of the day cutting rafters, and I'm going to take the middle of the day off because it's supposed to be extremely hot, and maybe this evening I can come out and do a layout and maybe put some rafters up. We'll see, but hopefully today's Friday. It's supposed to rain all tomorrow. Hopefully by the Sunday we will have boards on this section of the roof, and it's getting closer to being dried in this section, so stick around. All right, I got all of the rafters cut and leaned up. None of them are nailed in place. Even those up there are just placed in place. I really wanted to see what the ceiling height in the stalls and tack room are going to be like, so going to be just fine. All right. I think I'm done for the day, but I might come back out later. Let's see if I have any ambition. Should go in and edit a video. So, all right. I hope you guys are staying cool, because it's not cool here. See you later. All right, I'm up on standing on top of the top plate here, and you can see these lines on the ends of the tails. I could have pre-cut all of these tails, but as you can see, the crow's foot doesn't fit quite nicely on all of them, and that's because that wall there is not completely straight. So to get a better result, leave the tails uncut, and then I measured off 8.5 inches and plumbed up a line at that end and down at that end, and I chalked a line and squared up from each one of those lines, and that's what I'll cut. And this little issue here will disappear. We'll end up with a perfect overhang, and that all gets covered up with a soffit. So I'm not really worried about it. So I'm gonna set you on time lapse, and I'll cut off all of these tails. All right, they're all cut off and they're perfectly straight. And they're all 8.5 inches off of the fascia. So that's what I'm looking for. The next thing to do is the ends of these beams that stick up high. There are 4 of them. I got to go get the chainsaw, lop those off. And then it's all about resawing some timbers into roofing boards. So we're getting there. Hopefully the rain holds off. All right, the next step is resawing some of the cants that I have over there into boards. So I just did that one. Those are 12-inch boards, and I got a couple 10s. And I'm just gonna zip through this one and make boards. So what did that take? Just a couple minutes, and there's enough square footage there for the equivalent of 2 sheets of plywood. So, and nobody puts 1-inch thick plywood on their roof. So pretty inexpensive. I'm glad I had these cants here. Sawmill makes quick work of them, and next step is to get them ready to go put on the roof. Good morning. It's Monday morning. It's drizzling, overcast, cloudy, and we put up some tarps on the roof because I couldn't get the high temperature ice and water shield that I went to town to get on Saturday. Apparently that's another product that's becoming very hard to get. So we threw up some tarps on there to try to keep this section of the building dry so that I can work in here.